plywood I dug out of the dumpster because I'm cheap. I'm even gonna give you all the measurements so you can build one for yourself. Probably even better than this one. It's even got a working drawer. You can even take naps on it. But seriously though, let's get started. The first thing I'm gonna do is grab the DeWalt, since it's the bigger of the two, set it on my table, measure it up, and I think that will judge how big the tabletop is gonna be. Okay, what I did here was I set on this table, I centered it this way, then I took my square, or my level, and I stuck it up to the side of it, and I measured it about 1 inch off the edge of that to give me 1 inch clearance that way. Then I took and put a square to where this handle is, and I measured it, and it's 28 inches there. So my plan is to give it 1 inch on both sides, so now I know my table needs to be at least 29 inches wide. This little table here is 23 3/4, so I'm just gonna say 24 inches. So I'm just gonna make this tabletop 24 by 29. Okay, so we go over to our master plans here, and we're gonna be 29 inches wide and 24 inches deep. All right, let's go ahead and get that one cut. Now that you got the two tabletop pieces cut, the next thing you want to do is take a 1x4 and cut two 29-inch long pieces of that. And then we'll set those on the edges. Now for my swivel, I found a piece of 1/2 inch conduit. It's just a little under 3/4 of an inch, which will make it to where I can use 1x4s and plywood to fill in the area. So you see here where I took and just put those 1x4s there and drew a line on each side of them. Then I found the center of the board, which was 12 inches because it's a 2-foot board. And I'm putting a 3/4 inch rod, so I just went 3/8 of an inch off each side of that. Now that I've got all 4 of those lines laid out, I'm just gonna measure from this line to this line, and I'm gonna cut a piece of plywood and basically fill these gaps in with plywood. That'll give us something to screw the equipment to. Should be a solid wood piece under there. There's what it looks like with all the pieces in and the rod through the middle of it. That gives me just enough. I can tighten this up if I need to, just push these in tighter so I don't have any slack in it. Now the next thing I need to do is cut some slots in these boards here so I can install this eye bolt. I'm going to attempt to do those on the table saw and try not to lose a finger. Wish me luck. Okay, I got my blade set about 1.5 inches up, and I'm going to start with my first cut at 3/16 on my little guide here, and then I'll cut it, spin it around, and then I'll move my fence over to about the 5/16 mark, a little bit between that and 1/4, and I'll cut it, flip it, and cut it again, and I should have a 5/16 groove right down the middle of that board. see what it looks like. Fits pretty, gets a little loose, but I think it'll work. You gotta do it 3 more times. Now that we got those cut, we're gonna do some gluing and screwing. Now we got it glued up. Make sure our top still fits through there. It does. Got just a little bit of play on it. That should keep it from binding up. Next thing we need to do is drill some holes for these bolts to go through to hold our eye bolts. And I think I'm just going to go 1 inch off each side of the corner there. Okay, I'm going to countersink this nut and washer. Now I measured the outside of this washer, it's about 1 inch. So I'm going to take a 1 inch Forstner bit and drill it down to almost the depth of the bit there. That should countersink that inside there nicely. Now we just do that 4 times on this side, flip it over, and do it 4 times on the other side. Now that we've got those countersunk, we're going to take a 3/8 forestry bit. Forestry. Heck yeah, suckers growing trees. Forstner bit, and drill through the middle of that for this bolt to go through. Okay, after drilling the first one all the way through, I got crooked. So what I figured out was I'd set the washer in there. That makes sure I'm drilling through the center of this hole. So basically the washer will fit in there. And I just been drilling them. I drill one side at a time and then flip over and drill the other side. That keeps me from drilling the hole, crooked. Crooked in the bolt not fitting in there with the washer won't fit in the hole. Now that I got my top built, I'm going to put my tallest piece of equipment on it. I'm going to take a measurement from the top of that to the bottom of the top and see how much clearance I need when I spin it around. That looks like about 21.5 inches. Should clear that. So I come up 21.5, so I had an extra inch just for any errors that could happen. So 22.5, I want to put a 5-inch drawer on it. So 22.5 plus 5 is 27.5. And I'm going to put a piece of plywood on top and bottom of the drawer. So that's going to be another 1.5 inches. So you're looking at 29 inches on this length right here. So we'll put 29 right there, and of course the depth's going to be 24. It's the same as that. So I need to cut 2 pieces at 24 by 29 or 29 by 24, however you want to say it. Now that I got the sides cut, I went ahead and cut these 2 pieces right here, and then this 5-inch piece that goes in between it. This I cut like a 1/16 over what the width of the top is, just to try to keep it from being in a bind when we spin it around. Alright, I got those 2 bottom pieces cut, and then the 5-inch piece for the back, and I just went ahead and drilled some pocket holes in here about every 4 inches. Next thing I need to do is figure out where I need to drill this hole, and then I'm gonna have a couple of slots to clamp it down. In order to find out how far down we need to drill our hole, we need to figure out the thickness of the top. The top's about 2¼ inches thick. So half of 2¼ is going to be 1 1/8. So we'll measure down 1 1/8 right here. And then we'll center it that way. That's where we'll draw a hole there. And I also need to drill some slots right here for my wing nuts. Same thing, they need to be centered 1 1/8. And then I'm gonna go back about 1.5 inches back on these. Before I'll stop. What I'm going to do is just draw a line across here. That'll be my center mark. 1 1/8. This will be a 3/4 hole. This slot will be 5/16 wide. Okay, in order to get my 5/16 slot, I just took half of 5/16, which is 5/32. I marked it on each side of the line, drew a line across it. I measured to the fat side of the line, so this hole will probably be a 3/8. And I'm just gonna take and drill a hole with the drill bit right there, and then take a jigsaw and connect it. And then this, I'll just use a 3/4 Forstner bit to drill that all the way through. Alright, I'm going to attempt to drill this 3/4 hole straight. Now I'm going to drill my 2 3/8 holes, hopefully straight. Now I'm going to attempt to cut this straight. we can finally start putting this thing together. All I did was set this on this table, put a couple clamps to hold that while I screw these pocket hole screws in. Next thing I'm going to do is throw these 5-inch spacers in here so we can set our top of our shelf on it. You want to put this one on with the pocket hole screws facing down. Now we just need to put the screws in. Now for the back piece, same thing, pocket holes on the inside. Should be a fairly tight fit. It's going to be a long reach down in here. Now you don't have to do this step if you don't want to. This plywood I dug out of the dumpster is a little warped. I was limited on size, so I had to do the grain that way. So that's a little loose right there. So I'm gonna put 3 screws in here just to hold that square. Much better. Next step is to put these eye bolts on here. These are just a 5/16 by 3 1/4 inch long. I'm gonna bolt a 2-inch 3/8 bolt through the hole right here. Washer on each side. Just gonna put a regular nut with a little devil's glue on it, and then on your eye bolts on the side, you'll put one of these thumb nuts and a washer on it. You'll need 2 ratchets for this, sockets, because they are countersunk. So I'll tighten it there until it's snug and this moves freely through there. Now that you got your eye bolts on, you take your washer, your 5/16 washer, and your little 5/16 knob, and they go just like that. Next thing I'm going to do is put the top on. I found it's easiest just to lay this thing on its back, slide the top in there, and then I could try to slide my bar in there. That way I'm not trying to fight with the top. I'm trying to get the pipe to go through the hole. Now that I've got it put together with my pipe through there, I need to figure out the length of my pipe. Now I'm just going to hold mine together with a washer and a linch pin on each end of it. That way I don't have to worry about when I'm flipping it, for some reason it's spreading apart. What I think I'm going to do is just stick it out on each end, about a 9/16 of an inch on each side of it, and I'll mark it, and then I'll get it out and cut it. Next thing I'm going to do is go 5/16 from the end, and I'm going to drill a 1/4 inch hole for the linch pin. Got those cut to length, got those holes drilled in it. I'm going to use these 5/8 washers is what they are. They'll say AOB on them. And these linch pins are 3/16. Now you could use a bolt nut to do this. I just used these because I had some laying around. After I drilled this and cut it, I sanded the outside real good and filed the inside because I've got kids and they like to stick their finger in holes. My next step is to build a drawer for this thing. I never built a drawer, so I'm sure this one's not going to turn out too well. But first I got to put these door slides in. I bought these door slides at Lowe's. They're 22 inch. And what I did was I took a piece of plywood and I stuck it in there and I marked the back side of it. That's the depth that I need to set the front of those door slides, I think. And then I'm just going to lay this in here to space my door slides off of the bottom. And I'm just going to screw them on like that. Hopefully that works. Okay, got my drawer slides in. So to make this drawer, I spaced this at 5 inches. So I'm just going to cut my drawer sides at 4.5. That should give me a 1/4 top and bottom right there. And I said my width, this is 29 inches, but these are 1/2 inch thick, so my width will be 28 inches. And then my depth, looks like it will be 22.25 deep. So all I'm going to do is cut 4 sides, put them together as a butt joint, put a piece of plywood in the bottom of it, and I'm going to call it good. If it breaks, yeah, I'll build another drawer. Like I said, this is all just scrap wood, so it's not like it's costing me anything other than my time. So I got all my sides cut. Now I'm just gonna cut a piece to put in the bottom. And my width of this front one here ended up being 26.5, so I know that my length of my bottom drawer is 26.5, and then my other side looks like 20 3/4. So 26.5 by 20 3/4, and I'm just gonna set that inside the bottom of it and probably just shoot some screws around the bottom. Same on the sides, just a little glue and screws to hold it together. Then I'll screw it to the drawer guides, and hopefully it works out. Like I said, if not, we throw it on the burn pile, we start over. Alright, I got all my pieces cut. I'm gonna go ahead and just glue this and throw some screws in it to hold it together. Then we'll slide it inside the table there and see if it fits. It fits. I had to put a screw in it so I can pull it out, but it fits in there pretty good. I'm gonna space it off the bottom with a piece of 1/4-inch plywood, and then we'll put the screws in the guides there. Next piece I need to cut is the face of the drawer, and I'm just gonna cut it a 1/16 of an inch shorter and longer than my opening here, which is 5 by 29. So we'll go 4 15/16 and 28 15/16 and see how that works out. All right, I got that door face cut out, and on one of those crates I dug out of the dumpsters, it had a handle on it. So I'm just gonna center that handle where I want it, and that will be my handle for my drawer. But before I put that on, I'm gonna drill 2 holes underneath it to screw the drawer face to the drawer, and they'll be hidden. That way I can go ahead and open the drawer and screw the screws in the back side of the drawer. All right, let's see how it fits. Fits in there pretty snug. I'm just gonna use the card trick to evenly space it on each side. I'm gonna put 2 cards over here. Two cards over here. I think I'm gonna do 3 cards on the bottom to lift it up off of there. Hopefully that'll work, but I'm just gonna drill a couple of screw holes right here and screw some screws to it. That way we can open it up and then screw our screws in the back of it. Success. It opens, it closes, and I'm just putting a couple screws to the back, one on each side and one kind of there in the middle. works pretty good. Next thing I need to do is flip it up on its back and install some wheels. Okay, for wheels, I'm just using these 2-inch polyurethane wheels I got at Lowe's. Some 1-inch long lag bolts, some washers. I really like these polyurethane wheels. They seem to hold up the best out of the ones I've been getting. I get them at Lowe's because honestly they're the cheapest place around here to get them. But I'm just going to hold it up there, mark it, pre-drill my holes, and then screw the bolt into it. I'm using a 5/32 bit. Okay, if you go with a 1-inch long bolt, the two front ones will stick up a little bit high because of the drawer front being so tight. It's going to hit. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and put all these in, and I'll just take my grinder and I'll grind the tips off these two front ones on each side. That way the drawer should slide in there. But I've got one on. I'm going to do the other three the same way, and we'll grind those down and we'll get the drawer back in. So instead of taking them out and hitting them with my grinder, since it's just the point, I'm just going to take my file and simply just file the tips of them off, and it should work. Alright, we got those filed down. Let's see if the drawer fits now. It works. Alright, now I'm going to pick this big old heavy thing up, set it on the floor, and start mounting the tools to it. Hopefully it works out. Okay, so I set the sander on there. I got it centered up. I just threw some 3-inch screws in these screw holes right here. Hopefully that holds. It seems pretty tight. I may get some different screws and screw into these two just to make sure it's secure, like overkill. But now we got that on there. That is my tallest thing, so I want to rotate it and make sure that that doesn't rub anything. And if that does not rub anything, I can put the planer on here and it should all be good to go. It clears. Looks like we got an inch or so underneath that, so that should work out great. Now let's put the planer on top of it. And the good thing about this having wheels on it is I can push it over there and set the planer on it instead of trying to carry that heavy thing. There it is. I went ahead and put 8 3-inch screws in there. The larger holes, I just put a fender washer for the screw. I don't trust 4 little screws on this thing. This thing's like 90 pounds. So she's all put together. I need to figure out a way to I want to put something here to wrap the cord around so the cord's not just hanging off. That'll probably be the next thing I do on this thing. Here's what I come up for the cords. I just took a piece of plywood that's about 2 inches wide and one that's about 1 inch wide, and then I made this one 2 inches longer, so I had an inch on each end of it, and I just wrapped a cord around it and just screwed it down. We'll see if it works. I mean, right now it seems to be working, but I'll rotate it a few times and use it, and if I don't like it, I'll figure something else out. But so far, I think that's gonna work, and I'm gonna flip it over to the sander side and put one on for it too. I put one on the sander side. When I mounted the planer, I didn't mount it center. I mounted it off center, that way when it was flipped down that the tables would hang down inside of the cabinet there. Because if you have one of these planers, you know that this table right here doesn't fold up flat. So I moved it farther that way on the table so that would clear it. It would be inside that deal, so you wouldn't be hitting it when you're standing over it. The only thing that I could say that I wish I'd have done different was this drawer is extremely tight now that I've got this stuff on it. So I'm probably going to take and cut a little bit more off of the height of that so it's not rubbing, because it's tight. Alright, let's go over all the measurements here. The tabletop itself was 29 by 24, and that's the pieces you'll need to cut out to make that. And then the sides were 29 inches tall, 24 inches wide, and you'll basically need 2 pieces that size. And this is the shelf and the back for the back of the shelf, and it was 29 1/16 by 24, and then 5 by 24, that piece that goes in the back. And then my drawer turned out to be 28 inches wide by 22 1/4 deep, and that's the list of the pieces you'll need to make that.